at home. It's a different presentation here. Most places I go, I have to tell them who I am and where I'm from and all of those things. You all know all of those things already. You were the very first sponsor that we had for the ministry, and sent us out to do this work for a few years until I became the associate pastor at Hyde Park. And of course, my membership had to move there in order for me to do that, and so that we could maintain local church authority over the ministry. They became the sponsors of the ministry at that time. And then when I resigned from Hyde Park to move back here and be close to Mom, and we started into this season of life that we're in now, that membership needed to move again, and they decided that they would turn loose of the ministry, not because of any problems between me and them, but because they wanted me to be able to become a member at a church where we could actually attend services, where we would be a member, and have that opportunity to do that. And so they are continuing sponsorship for right now until we find a new sponsor for the ministry. Immediately, Brother Jerry Chandler's church up in Arkansas said we'd love to do it. Right after that, a church in College Station, Texas said we would like to do it. Their pastor and a member there are both IT people at Texas A&M. So that was kind of a intriguing part of it for me with the technology ministry, to have some other people from the sponsor church that would be involved with technology, knowledgeable of those things and that. And they're a couple of 2.5 hours away, versus the church in Arkansas 7 hours away. So they had some interest there, and throughout the week of preaching revival, I told Amanda, I said, there's just something about White Rock, and I just casually made a comment to Brother Greg back here. I said, through this week being here for revival and everything, I said, I almost wish that White Rock might consider sponsoring the ministry again. And he and JoJo both were standing there and said, well, we've been praying about that already, and so he said, there might be some opportunities there. So let me tell you about the ministry, and most of you were here when it started, some of you were not, but my background being in IT work at Bancorp South for 12 years, and then about 2.5 years or so at Bright Coop doing IT work there. And then it was actually at a revival meeting here in 2015 when Brant Lane came and shared about Macedonian Missionary Service, and I got to know a little bit about them. I kind of got involved just by helping Macedonian Missionary Service with their website, building the website for them and for that ministry. And they've got the builders, and they've got the mechanics, and they've got the Mac Trips team, and they've got the Mac Med team that takes nurses and people over to other countries and provides them with medical help and things like that, but able to share the gospel while they're there. And so I was doing a website for that, and then after a few months of doing that, my eyes just really became open to mission work as a whole in the American Baptist Association, and my heart began to go out. I said, what about all these other missionaries that are out here trying to serve God? They're trying to plant a church in some place, and they're having to, whereas they should be able to focus all of their attention on preaching the gospel and reaching people with the gospel and showing compassion to people out here and creating those opportunities. Instead, they're having to figure out how to do a website to communicate about their ministry back to the people over here. They're having to try to figure out how to raise funds. They're having to try to figure out about a sound system for their little small mission or whatever it may be. And they need to focus on other things instead of trying to be something that's maybe not their skill set. And I didn't want anybody to be taken advantage of. There are a lot of people that'll sell you a lot of things that you don't need, and you can waste the Lord's money if you're not careful. And so I wanted to become a resource, and so that's what we did. And over the last 6 years or so, is that how long it's been? 2016 was when we officially started, in September 2016. We have built websites for churches. We've had online giving on those websites. I totaled it up recently. Over $1 million has been given to ABA churches, missionaries, and ministries since we started. I really didn't start the online giving until on into 2017. So between then and now, over $1 million has funneled through that. And I don't get a penny of it. You know, I don't hold, there's no percentage that gets held out that goes to me. There is a percentage that gets held out for credit card processing and things like that. You know about all that working at the bank, and there's just really no way around that. But I don't profit a penny off of anything that I've ever done for any of the churches. During COVID, when the whole world kind of shut down and everybody shut down for a period of time, my phone was ringing off the hook because the ministry had started early enough before COVID happened that word had gotten out. People were familiar with this ministry. They'd heard about this ministry, and so they knew who to call. And they began to call me. I'm at the house. It's midnight, you know, every night on the phone with pastors, one right after another. How can we stream our services so that we can continue to preach and our people can continue to hear, you know, the preaching? How can we have online giving so that people can continue to give their tithes? I shared during the revival, 30 churches in the ABA have closed their doors since COVID. I wonder how many more it would have been had it not been. I don't say that braggadociously, but how many more would it have been had it not been for this ministry, enabling them to continue to preach, to continue to raise their funds, to give their tithes and offerings, to be able to keep the doors open and to be able to keep the building going and the ministry going. And so I'm very, very thankful for that opportunity to serve through that. I've installed a lot of camera systems now for churches. I did some slides. I'll go ahead and show you. We changed the name from Macedonian Missionary Service, from MacTech under Macedonian Missionary Service, to now it will be ABA Tech, independent, just sponsored by the local church. So if you all are that church, then it would be just you all and me, you having church authority and me directing the ministry as I see fit to do, without the involvement of another third-party group. So that's the new logo that we've come up with. And if we go to the next slide, just hit the arrow. These are some of the logos that I've designed. I don't know if you can see if we need to kill some lights up here or not, but that's a logo there for Camp Glenwood, which is a church camp in Louisiana. The Florida State Association, that's probably the most recent logo that I've done. Grace Baptist Church, that is the work of Brother Scott Borland, missionary up in Hope, Arkansas. He called me and he said, I'm about to start a new church. We've got the location and everything. He said, I want a logo and a website and Facebook and all this kind of thing. And he said, but I can't tell you where it's going to be yet because the church that's sending me out hasn't officially voted on it yet. And I said, well, it really helped for me to kind of know a little more details. And he went ahead and told me where it was. And we came up with this logo for Grace Baptist Church. Before he ever had his first meeting, we already had a logo, we already had a Facebook page, we already had a website. He had already gone out in the community, knocked on doors, promoted everything. And so when they had their first service and they had people, they hit the ground running. That work has really thrived. And I had the chance to go preach up there 2 years ago. Well, a year ago, June, at the when the ABA meeting was in West Virginia. Caleb and I went through Indiana. And I got to meet all of those folks and tell them it was so wonderful to have a part in that, to be able to meet the people who were there when I've been a part of that work since before it was a work. So that was great. Some more logos on the next page. Magnolia Baptist Church in Mississippi. And this one was an idea that I came up with, actually. TNT, Explosive Evangelism. TNT stands for Telling and Teaching. And that's the Great Commission. We're supposed to tell and we're supposed to teach. And so if we want to have explosive evangelism, we want to have explosive growth in our churches, that's the way to do it, telling and teaching. And I had a whole concept that went along with that I was getting ready to implement at Hyde Park whenever the Lord called us away. So it never got off the ground, but that's the logo for it. Maybe we can do that here. We'll see. Another slide. This is a rack card is what this is. So this is the front. And the other side is the back, and that it's just a card that sits in a rack when people come and visit your church. You can hand that out, or when you have an event, you can take those to the event and have them in a rack there and hand them out to people. And it just kind of explains a little bit about what your church offers. This one talked about our children's ministry, our youth ministry, our young adults ministry, and our golden agers ministry. And logo on the front, website on the front, just something to hand out. On the next slide, that's a prayer card for Missionary. That's David and Tony Shockey. They have a prison ministry. So there's a prayer card that we designed for them. I don't have it on this one. Amanda wants me to tell you about QR codes because it's her favorite part of my ministry is when I design QR codes for people. QR codes is that little barcode, that little square barcode that you see on things. You'll see it on products. You'll see them in magazines and whatever. And if you scan it with your phone, just pull out your phone and go to the camera and point it at the QR code, then it will take you somewhere. And on some of the prayer cards that I've done, there's a QR code that when you point to it with your camera, it takes you to their website and you can read all their past newsletters and, you know, all that sort of thing. A lot of people use QR codes for different reasons. This is a postcard that we did for an event we hosted at Hyde Park called Forged, and that was the front. The other side is the back of the card. It had the schedule on here of what all would be going on, the dates. You could go and reserve your place online by going to the website, and you could register your children or whatever. We sent these postcards out. We did like 3,000 postcards, I think. Went to all the homes in the community, around the church, handed them all out at the schools, those kind of things. And we also advertise it using Facebook advertising, where you spend $100 to buy an ad on Facebook and thousands of people see it. We had a church from 2 or 3 hours away up in Arkansas that brought their whole youth group to come. It wasn't even an ABA church. They just had seen this on Facebook and came. It's a great event. But it's important that whenever we do advertising and whenever anything that we put forth, that it be professional, you know, that it look professional. Like it or not, and I hate to use the word compete, but we compete with what the world is doing. And, you know, they've got professional, nice looking advertisements that go out, and we do things that sometimes it looks like a third grader built it and we put it out there, you know, to invite people to come to our revival or whatever. And it just doesn't work. And so we try to do things like this for churches so that they can have professional material going out, that they don't have to spend the money. I mean, you still have to print it, obviously, but you don't have to pay somebody to design this work and do all this for you. And you don't have to try to do it yourself when it's not necessarily maybe your strong suit. You don't have, every church doesn't have somebody in their congregation that knows how to do this kind of thing. So that's where this ministry comes in. Next slide, I think, is the website. So there's just web hosting. Right now I'm hosting 46 websites absolutely free to the churches. And there is the one on the left here is for LMBIS, the seminary. The one on the right is, you see a lot of Hyde Park in here, but I used them because that's where I was. And on the next slide, that's a camera system that I put in. That's a very, very nice camera. It's called a PTZ optics camera. A lot of times we mount those there at the back of the church. It will zoom. That particular model there will zoom 70 feet and get right up in the face of the person. And it has preset locations, so whoever's running it, and we try to do things that are very simple for people to operate, because the last thing I want to do is have somebody spend $1,800 on this camera and then nobody knows how to use it after I leave. And so it has presets where while I'm there installing the camera, I can zoom it in on the pulpit, get a nice shot, save that as position number 1, label it pulpit. We can also pan it, tilt it, zoom it over to the piano and get that shot framed, and then we save that as preset number 2 and label it piano, so that when somebody does a special and we're all standing around the piano, that all the person operating has to do is just hit button number 2, and it goes right over here. Zoom it in on the baptistry so that whenever we have a baptism, we can, you know, go to that preset. Very, very simple to operate. And great camera, great quality picture. And then the next one is going to be video conferencing solution. I did that up in Concord Baptist Institute in Oklahoma. So that's a seminary in Oklahoma. And we put this system in for distance learning, for people to be able to take seminary classes at home or from anywhere in the world. They could take seminary classes, and they can see exactly what's going on in the classroom while the classes are happening. Or you can go on their website, which I also host for them, and they can see the past classes. You sign up, they give you a password, you sign in with the password, and you can go back and watch all those past seminary classes on their website. And one more slide here. This is the soundboard that I put in at churches whenever they ask me for help with sound systems. Incidentally, that's the same soundboard that you all have back here. That's a 32 channel. Y'all have, I think, the 16 channel back here, so it's just a smaller version of what you see up here. And Dana Woods at Encore Music, who put yours in when I was still living in West Monroe, had me come into his shop over here, Encore Music. He spent an entire day with me. He and Steve spent an entire day with me for absolutely no gain whatsoever for them, and trained me on how to use this board, how to install this board, how to configure this board, so that I could put this in churches in Arkansas and Oklahoma and Louisiana and wherever that I may go, wherever they may ask me to do that. The only thing that I agreed to with them was that in exchange for them giving me that, I would not put any in the couple hour radius of where he goes, because that would take away from his livelihood. And so the church down in Palestine, where I was last week, they wanted a camera system, and they talked to me about a sound system as well. And I said, well, I can help you with the camera system, but you're actually in Encore's territory, so I have to refer you to them for the sound system. But I could still give them recommendations on, hey, this is the board that I would recommend. Talk to Dana, and that. But that's the only one so far I've come across where I've not been able to do it. The next slide this is the last thing, one of the most recent things I did at Brother Jerry Chandler's church up in Arkansas. Caleb and I went up there recently and installed this system. What this is a hearing assisted system. So it connects to your soundboard. And so for the people who are in the congregation who are hard of hearing, they can put this receiver over their ear, and it just sits flush against the ear, and whatever audio goes through the soundboard goes straight to the receiver that's over their ear. So they're not getting any background noise, they're not getting any ambient noise, they're just getting what's coming through the microphone, what's coming through the sound system, and they're able to then hear the song service, they're able then to hear the preaching. And I say, what a tragedy it is, for somebody to get up, to come to church, to sit there for 35 minutes of a sermon. God's word is being preached, and they don't hear a thing, or they miss part of it. And so with this system, it helps people like that. That's another system that I buy from Dana over at Encore Music. He can order that for me, and then I can put those in. And great system. That's the only one I've done, but it was what they asked for, and we put it in, and it works very well. So I'm anticipate as I go out and share this ministry, probably more people are going to say, hey, we need that here. We could use that here. So those are some of the things that we have been doing. Who knows what else will come up. A lot of this has kind of evolved over time, just like the hearing assisted thing. It wasn't something we started doing, but now it's something we are doing. And God just keeps opening doors for us to do more and more things. And sound systems wasn't something I started out doing, didn't know anything about them, but God allowed me to get that training and to be able to do that. And I can do basic stuff. And there are times when there are churches that have asked for my help with a website or a sound system or whatever it may be, and I've looked at it and I said, no, you're a wealthy church that has plenty of money to spend, and you all would be better off to hire a professional to do this, because your needs are greater than what my abilities are. And I don't mind saying that, but for 90% of American Baptist Association churches, they need somebody like me who can come in and do it for them and save them the money. And their needs are simple enough that even a little old East Texas boy like me can figure out how to help them. And so glad to be able to serve the Lord in that way.